Should we start off with the low-hanging fruit?
Sure, go for it.
Obviously, you know what John said about you being in mourning.
Yeah, heard a lot about it this week.
I mean, what was your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I saw the headline, and that surprised me a little bit, but then I listened to everything he said, and I think he explained it pretty well. I think the mourning thing was a little bit off, but we were ecstatic when we got the trade. It came out of nowhere, so we were truly pumped up about it, and it surprised us at the time. But I think really what he was trying to explain was after we made that trade, nothing was a set deal. And we were very excited about Jimmy. Evaluated him through college. We thought he played as well in those 2 games that he played in as you could see on tape. But then again, it was only 2 games. So after we made that trade, all we knew was, hey, we're going to be in a good position in this end of the year to have a really good quarterback. 1, we just traded for a talented one. 2, we know that there's going to be a good one available in free agency, most likely. And 3, at that time, and we hadn't had a win yet. We were thinking we might have the first pick in the draft also. So we're evaluating all these things and taking them all into account. And we knew we were going to be in a good position. But the neat story about it all was how well he played and how big of an effect he had on our building and how well he did on the field. And we had 2 games before it, and we got 5 games after it. And those 5 games were very impressive, and I think that's why we showed our opinion and our commitment on how we felt about him with the contract we gave him. And when the year was over, we knew we didn't have to look into free agency, we didn't have to look into the draft. We knew we had our guy.
But before anything had really developed, when you first took the job, was Kirk in fact kind of the guy that?
Yeah, I think everyone knows that. I mean, I think I'm allowed to talk about him now since he's on their team. But no, that was the plan. I mean, I had a relationship with him. He was a good quarterback that I had been with, and I had a strong feeling, and I think everyone did, that he was going to become available. Nothing was set in stone. You never knew what the Redskins were going to do, and you never knew if they would come to a deal, but the signs were pointing that he was going to be available. And of course, when I came to San Francisco, we didn't have a quarterback on the roster, and we were looking to get one, and that was going to be a huge possibility. But things changed.
Yeah.
Something else came across us, and we were very happy that it did.
Have you talked to Kirk this offseason?
Yeah, I talked to him a little bit. Just congratulations after he signed in Minnesota. I was happy for him. Yeah.
You sitting in meetings yesterday, and the Rams signed Sue. You're just like, seriously, stockpiling or what?
It is what it is. But they got a good one on the other side. So it's going to be a challenge for both guards and our center. But they've added some firepower this offseason, and I think we have too. I know they're trying to get better, and they have, and hopefully we are too.
How do you balance, like, you build your roster for 16 games, but 2 of them are against Aaron Donald and Dominican Sue, and all of a sudden you can't necessarily go out of your way to just prepare for just those 2 games, but that's obviously something in your division you have to plan for.
Yeah, when you play guys like that, I mean, any play they can change the game, so you got to be very careful in what you do, and you can't be too greedy with how long you hold on to that ball. You got to be balanced. You got to make them defend the run, defend the pass. Anytime you have guys that talented, I mean, if you become one-dimensional, they'll change the game. So they just keep you on your toes every play, and you got to play smart. But there's also 20 other players out there, and you got to hope that some of them make some plays that change the game, and you got to limit what those other 2 do. But they're going to have big plays in the game. You got to protect the football.
Do you have a plan as far? But like, which of your guards are going to be at which spots?
Not yet. Yeah, well, I mean, Lincoln played the whole year on the left side, so with Suman, we'd start off there. Suman, bring in Cooper, let him compete on the right. We'll let Garnett come in back from his injury. And the one thing about guard is, you only have so many guys on your roster, so we'll see how the starting 2 guys end up. But you got to be able to play both. We'll practice everybody at every spot. Once people do end up becoming the for sure starter where the competition's over, then you'll leave them in one spot. But you're always mixing them around because you only dress a certain amount of game day, and you got to be very versatile.
How's Garnett's progress coming along?
It's been great. I'm excited to get back with him and work with him. When we get into phase 1, we can get him out on the field into phase 2 with our drills and then OTAs. But we challenged Josh that he got his knee cleaned up. We really want him to take advantage of the year with just getting his body in the best shape possible, not just taking care of his knee, but really putting his body in his position that he's never been in before. And just seeing him at the end of the year, in December, he really took advantage of his time off. And got his body fat down, his weight down. I think he's in his best shape of his life, and he's giving himself a real good chance to have an opportunity to help us this year.
You talked in Indy about how you like your guards quick. I covered him at Stanford, and I remember he pulled a lot, and he seemed quick in space, but I know that's the college level. Do you think he has it in him to display that kind of quickness that you would want in your
Yeah,
team?
definitely. He's got the ability. I mean, he was a first-round pick, and he definitely has the ability. I studied him a lot coming out of college when I was at Atlanta. He definitely can do it. I hope his knee is healed up, and he just gets going and gets used to our offense and gets the reps.
So when he was coming out, was he a fit, or does he need to get into the position?
He needs to get into the position. You know, they played in a different scheme in college with a lot more gap oriented, with a power scheme where you're pulling a lot more and double teaming people. Outside zone's a little bit different. We still do those things, but we definitely don't major in it. We major in outside zone. And I thought he came along decent in OTAs and training camp, but he was always battling an injury through the whole time. So I'm excited to see him clean and healthy and give him more of a fair shot going at this.
Kyle, how do you see Jared McKinnon fitting into your offense?
I mean, we brought him in. You know, I see him coming in being our starting running back right now, and you know, he's going to split roles with whoever else is there. You know, we're going to give a lot of guys the ball, but we plan on him being our guy, and I think he'll always be a third down back. He's a weapon in the pass game, very good in matchups and man-to-man situations, and I think he's got a lot of ability to run the ball. So I'm excited to have him.
Can I ask an offensive philosophy question?
Sure.
We've been saying for years that it's a passing league. Last year, there was far fewer passing across the league, fewer than 35 pass attempts per game, and running was up. And I wonder if that's, in your mind, do you think that's because the teams are in more nickel personnel and they're smaller, so it almost invites teams to run the ball a little bit more? Or is it just utilizing the running back more, taking targets away from other players in the passing game that lowers that general?
I don't know exactly. I know for me personally, I've just learned through experience, if you throw the ball too much, you're going to get, it's not going to be very good. It's too much pressure on people. It's too hard in this league to block the defensive line. It's too much pressure on the quarterback, down in and down out, that if you don't have a running game, it puts way too much pressure to me on the quarterback. And I've learned that over the years. And you get in games where they play certain defenses in fronts where you need to throw the ball more often or not, or the score dictates it, where you're just trying to get back in the game. But I always try to be balanced. It doesn't always happen that way. But I think people learn that, I mean, you throw it too much and eventually you're going to realize, all right, there's a reason I need to run the ball.
Last one on this. Do you consider it the same thing as a handoff if the quarterback's just throwing a dink pass to the running back flat?
Yeah, it depends what you call. I mean, if we call like a certain screen where there's no read and I know we're going to get a completion, if it doesn't work, it's going to be a 0-yard gain, but we're going to get a completion. I consider something like that a run play, a quick wide receiver screen, something where you know someone's going to, as long as they can catch, that the clock's going to keep running, but it doesn't guarantee you're going to get yards. So I look at stuff like that, like a run, throwing a little bubble, stuff like that.
Right. Vikings never quite gave Jared kind of a full workload for a whole season. Is that something you think he can maybe touch the ball a little more than he has been?
Yeah, I think he can. I definitely think he can. I also, people make a lot of that. I feel like if you're not at 230 pounds, everyone says you can't handle it for the whole year. I personally think guys who are 230 pounds have a hard time handling it for the whole year. It's hard to do that for 16 games in the NFL, no matter who you are. So I don't wish that on anybody, to tell you the truth. I want to balance them out, and whoever we would have, I'd want to do that. But you're going to have a lead guy. One guy's going to get him more than the other people, and that's where Jarek is for us.
The traditional way of thinking is that, you know, Jarek at his size and Reed at his size, you don't have anyone to give the ball to on 3rd and 1 or at the goal line.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on that?
Well, I mean, I would love to make it all perfect, that you have a small, quick one, you got a huge bruiser, you got every single thing possible, but it doesn't always work out that way. You want to get the best running backs available, and whoever's available, you try to go for the best one. You don't go, all right, I think that guy's the best one, but he looks too much like the guy we have. Let me get a different looking guy. It's just how it comes out. I think our guys are somewhat similar. They do have different attributes, and we'll continue to look in the draft, and we'll always continue to try to add running backs. But you know, when it comes to you need a big bruiser for the goal line and stuff, I mean, no one's just running over people get blocked either. I mean, you need to find open holes. You need to be a good running back. You need to block well. But yeah, you want everything, but you got to go with what's available too.
Does that kind of make Juszczyk a little bit more important, or more of a factor in those kinds of situations?
Well, I think anytime you have a fullback in the game, it changes all the angles for the O-line, who they're going to. It makes everyone's job a little bit easier. It makes the defense commit more to the run, which now opens up the pass. I wouldn't necessarily say that helps a running back size or not, but it changes everything in the run game by just having the threat of a fullback in there.
But what I'm saying is he more of a threat with the ball in his hands?
Oh, I mean,
in the run game.
Juice is a threat with the ball in his hands because he's a fullback. They're going to treat him as a fullback, and if they treat him as a fullback too much, he's got enough skill sets to get a handoff and make him pay. But Juice isn't a running back. You're not going to put him back there and just have him hand it to him when they know he's getting the ball.
Okay.
That's kind of, to me, what makes him special, is that he's a fullback, and he has to be treated as a fullback, but he has the ability to do everything else.
How excited are you to be able to deploy both him and McKinnon on pass patterns? Maybe on the same play?
I'm very excited. It gives you a lot of options. I think everyone, we added a running back, but we also added receivers to be tight ends. But in the fact that you use these guys the same way, we do that with Juice similarly. Also, it's when you get to third down and things like that, you look for matchups, and it's not always the receivers on the outside. Sometimes it's the slot receiver. Sometimes it's the running back running the exact same routes from the backfield that Trent Taylor runs from the slot, that Kittle runs from just off the tackle. They're all similar routes. It's what's your better matchup. And when you have slot receivers, tight ends, running backs, fullbacks, all who can do those routes, it's all the same thing for your quarterback. It's all the same thing for the play calls. It's just who has the best matchup that week, and it gives you more options to move the chains.
Jared, kind of an offensive weapon, kind of how Juice was, can you describe as that?
I'm going to be very careful using that word because I've given John a hard time about it for the last year with Juice. But you can use them in different ways, and that's what's neat about it. I think it's a matchup-based league, and you want your explosive players, and especially I always look at on the outside with receivers for the play action and the first and second down, just that you're going to have a run game and you're going to have deep passes off of that. And you need speed, which we have with Keith and Pierre on the outside. But when you get to third down and stuff and you're in more of a drop-back deal, it's just about matchups. And when you have guys like the people you're mentioning, that's how you use them, because you can put them anywhere on the field. They always are running backs, but you can put them anywhere on the field that makes people honor them. And now you got linebackers and safeties covering guys in space that they struggle to do.
Jarek was saying
that reminds me of last year.
Jarek was saying today at the press conference that ever since he got in the league, he said the tag of being a third down back, and he's ready to kind of shed that or exceed that, kind of pigeonhole he's been put in. I mean, did he express that to you when you guys were talking?
No, I don't think he had to, because I think, he could see by the commitment we were making to him that we saw him as more than that. I think that's a positive that people look at him that way, because not everyone can do that stuff. So that's one of the things that makes him special. But I also get why he said that too, because he believes that he's not just that, and I do also. He can do a lot more than that. And it doesn't matter what down it is. He has the skill set to help you in a lot of ways.
You have between Sherman, Tauchu, and Cooper, you have kind of a trio of players who bet on themselves. Is that a quality you appreciate as a head coach, from a guy who's going to go in the mindset of I have something to prove, and I want to show that I'm more than what maybe the perception is?
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone goes into free agency and they want that big deal and everything to work out, and it happens for some guys. But then there's other guys in situations that they gotta bet on themselves a little bit, and they try to go to the best opportunity where they can really prove it. That always excites you, because they're choosing you because they think they have the best opportunity to showcase their skills, and that's what you want to do for them. You want to put them in the best situation possible to help them, which also helps our team. So you help a guy who comes to a place, whether it's a one-year deal or not, and they play very well, they're going to help themselves and their family, and they're also going to help your team win.
John mentioned that Jimmy is going to take some reps at corner this offseason.
Yeah, he's going to start out at corner in OTAs. Jimmy, he played safety for us last year. I think he played at a very high level. When he got hurt, Colbert came in and did very well. And now we're trying to, it's different with Jimmy because, we picked up the option on him, which is very exciting for me. I think you guys, we talked about it at our last press conference, but for us to pick up the option on Jimmy and we don't have him set in an exact spot, I think that it says a lot about our organization that they're willing to do that, because Jimmy's a good player and you don't want to let a good football player out of your building. And he can help us at corner, he can help us at safety, he can help us at nickel. Now we're going to put him at corner because Sherman's not going to be healthy. He's going to do that throughout OTAs. When we go to training camp, we'll reevaluate where we want to have him at. We know he's capable of starting in a number of spots. I also know he gives us depth at a number of spots. I think Jimmy's one of the very important guys on our team because I think he's good enough to start at 5 different spots. I also think he's good enough to be the second best at 5 different spots. So Jimmy's going to play for us this year. I can't say exactly where, and I mean that, and I think that's because it's a compliment. He's good at a lot of spots, and we need him to help us at a lot of spots, and we couldn't go solve all our issues with depth at every single position. And Jimmy Ward, I think, gives us some versatility in that way.
Do you view his injury history as unlucky, or is there?
If you're like, when you break your forearm and stuff playing football, it's hard for me to say you're injury prone. He plays physical, and that's what he did last year. And I love how the guy plays, the way he played safety last year for us. It was fun to watch. He plays the exact way we want a guy to play. The fact that he has the ability to come out and line up, and we believe he can do corner for us too, says the type of athlete he is. And I think he's been unfortunate with his injuries, and if he can put a full year together where he stays healthy, I think everyone will appreciate the type of player he is.
Did Colbert's level of play at free safety in December toward the end of the season make you more comfortable about this, about having?
Yeah, it definitely does. And Colbert showed he can be a starting safety in this league, and he played at that level at the end of the year. By no means did it mean we were just going to hand it to him. It would have been a very good competition between him and Jimmy. But the way our corner positions panned out before going into the draft and everything, right now where we sit at, if Jimmy was here, we'd be telling him we want him to start out in OTAs at corner.
So does that limit his options to be able to start at free safety?
I don't think it does. Because you get to training camp too, and Jimmy didn't even get a training camp last year. And after we give him 10 days or 10 practices at corner, you get a chance to evaluate that. We give Colbert a chance to get 10 solid practices at safety, and then we'll see where Sherman is when we go into training camp, how the draft ended up, where the rest of our depth chart is, and we'll reevaluate in that month before training camp starts.
Kyle, you wake up this morning and it's news that the Rams have signed Ndamukong Suh in addition to Talib and Peters. You know Sean, obviously, but it's almost like everyone's just loading up with talent. When you wake up and see that as a Niners head coach in the division, what's your response?
It is what it is. He's a good player. There's a lot of good players in this league. I know one of the best is there too with Donald, so it's going to be a huge challenge. I was messing with Sean last night about it, but I'm sure they're going to draft some more good ones also. But it's we plan on improving our team, which I think we've done, and I think it's going to be a challenge this year. I think it's going to be a challenge for years to come, and we look forward to it.
How good is this rivalry right now? I know you guys finished 6-10, so on paper, but to come finish the season the way you did, with them winning division, feels like Rams-Niners is something again in the NFL.
I think we got 4 good teams in our division. I know Arizona and Seattle have been at it for a while, and I'm not going to act like they're not going to be there every year also. We got there's 4 good organizations, good coaches, good players, and it's a tough division to be in, but it makes it more fun also.
I think the signing of Jerick McKinnon in league circles was, okay, that makes sense, but sometimes around the league, maybe in the media and maybe at home and outside the markets of where you played, people kind of raised their eyebrows and said, well, wait a second, who's this guy? How much is he making? And everyone said, well, this is a guy that Kyle Shanahan really wanted. So what does Jerick McKinnon bring to the 49ers that the fan at home who maybe did not watch him in Minnesota knows about?
Well, we looked into all the running backs in free agency, and we thought he was the top guy. And so that was who we targeted, and we were happy to get him. You go through it, and you target the top guy, and you do what you got to do to get him, and that's what the market was for him. So we're excited to have him. We think he's going to be a very good running back for us. People talk about him being a third down back, which he is. He's a very good third down back, and we plan on using him that way. I also think he's a good first and second down back too. So we're pumped to have him. And I think when it comes to free agency, you got to target who you want, and the market gets set, and you go get them. And my philosophy on free agency, if you're getting a good person, a guy who works hard, who practices hard, plays hard, is really the same way every day. And then you're usually going to make a good decision. And the homework we've done on Jarek and the type of guy he is, the type of talent we can see on tape from his NFL days back to his college, we're very excited about the person player we got.
Seeing the hysteria around Cousins and Keenum and Bradford and all those guys, how important was it for you guys to get done the Garoppolo deal before even the combine and just have that set so you can now build your team from there?
It was very important. You know, after the way Jimmy played at the end of the year, I mean, we didn't know it right when we got him, but we quickly saw about 2 to 3 games into it that we had to make sure to get this done right away because he played at such a high level for us. We loved the guy in the building, the way he handled himself. Our players loved him, coaches loved him, and then I think everyone saw how he played. So the sooner you can get something done like that, the easier it is to where you can set everything else up, go for your other targets, and we knew it would get done. You know, when you got 2 sides who want to get something done, usually happens, and it was a credit to their side and our side that they were able to get it done before free agency started.
We've heard a lot about the meeting between John Lynch and Parag and Sherman and his fiance, but the dinner the night before, there hasn't been many details shared, at least the actual how it got set up and everything. Can you just kind of go through those, I guess, 8 hours from when he's released to the fact he's at dinner with you that night?
Yeah, we you know, we had an idea he was getting released, and we had to wait till 12:01 until it was official to where we could call him. And at 12:01 we called him, and fortunately it was in Vegas, which is only about a 45-minute hour flight from us. So he wanted to do this fast, so did we. So I had never met him before, so I wanted to spend some time with him. So him and his fiance Ashley, they flew up. They met my wife and I at dinner on that Friday night, just a few hours after I talked to him, and we had a good dinner. Probably were there about 3 or 4 hours, and talked about a lot of stuff. He remembered so many plays against them, which I remembered him too, and we really enjoyed each other, and pumped to have him on our team.
Coming off that press conference when he was so complimentary of you and said, you know, this is a guy, everyone mimics this guy. Did you know about the admiration of Richard Sherman for you before you guys brought him in there and before you had that dinner?
I told him that's the only way we'd sign him if he talked really good about me like that. When you play against each people a lot, and a guy where they're in such a sound scheme, and it's really hard to go against that scheme. That's why I wanted that scheme for the Niners. And you go against someone like him who's not only playing in a good scheme, but he's also very talented and knows how to play in it. And I've played him a number of times over the years, so there's always a battle. It's funny to go against him because you never talk to him, but he's a guy who you always got to think about what you're going to do against him because he plays very smart. And I tell him he's always guessing, but it's an educated guess because he studies film. If he anticipates something, he will intercept it. So you always got to think when you're playing against a guy like that, what's he thinking, so you can do the opposite, so you can get him to guess on something to get the big move. And those are kind of the fun things to talk to him about once you're on the same side.
My last one, the Rams have just added 17 more players in the last hour since they sat down there. Are the Niners done, or is this a possibility that you guys continue to be players in the free agent market and even in the trade market?
And we'll always look to improve ourselves. You know, we're never done, but we're not doing stuff just to do it either. But if anything comes out, anything's available, we will always look in every situation to improve our team, and I don't think that'll ever stop.
All right, Kyle, thank you.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Is there, as a head coach, you want to win now? The GM's job is kind of to look at the big picture and plan ahead. Have you been kind of on John, like, let's get more guys? We have tons of cap space. Like,
not at all.
What's your philosophy?
I think it's the opposite of what you said. I mean, I would love to win now, and I think you do everything you can to win now, but you never do it at the expense of the future. And I've been in this league a long time, and I think we've all waited a long time to have an opportunity like this, and this isn't something that you just go in recklessly and just try to make yourself look good right away. You want to make good decisions. Of course you want to win fast, but that's the decisions you make at this time that excite people and that you win this month don't always lead to the season. And you got to be very smart with that, because especially when you do have some room and people do have expectations of you adding a ton of guys, and I got to come home every night and we didn't sign the top guys every single day, and my wife's disappointed and all the fans are and stuff. I know it's exciting. I was the same way when my dad would come home from work and they didn't sign every free agent. I'd be disappointed because it is exciting, but it's not always the best move. I think if you look at that every year, you know, it's whatever you pay for, it hurts you years in advance. So you got to make sure that it's the right fit, that you have a role for them, that they're the right type of people, that you're going to build your organization around, and you're going to have them for a few years and know what you want to do with them.
How, when evaluating the roster and projecting ahead to next year, how guys can improve with you in their second year, how much do you attribute last year's success at the end toward the improved quarterback play versus then just getting better throughout the year and learning the system more and things like that as you kind of look ahead to 2018?
I mean, it was a combination of both. There's there's no doubt it helps a ton when a quarterback comes in and plays at the level Jimmy did. So you can't take that away from that situation. But also the guys got a lot better. You know, we played a lot of young guys throughout the year, and they went through a lot of ups and downs. But you get better or worse from those situations, and it was a credit to them that our guys got better. Some guys get a little overwhelmed when they're thrown in situations a little too early, and we put our guys in those situations. And you don't always want to do that as a coach, but we had to. And our guys responded very well. I think our guys were mentally tough. They fought throughout the year. I think they battled some injuries too, and they were a lot more healthy at the end of the year, and they had learned from their experiences of the pressure of the first 10 weeks where finally they got used to it. And once we got that monkey off our back, got our first win, I think everyone gained more confidence, everyone got healthier, and guys were playing better.
What was the process like in developing the team with that young talent that was taking it on the chin at the end of games? I mean, you guys lost, so many in a row, so close to keep them hanging in there and focus on improving versus maybe getting discouraged. And
it's different because, young guys, it's sometimes they don't know better also, and especially a lot of them are just trying to be in the league. It's not, we were playing a lot of young guys, and they're not, a lot of them are undrafted too. They're late, they're 7th round draft choices. They're guys who are happy to be in the league, and they're trying whatever they can do to stay in it. And I think that's what, guys don't get too caught up in the record when they're in that situation. But it is tough when you start out 0-5, when you set an NFL record for losing 5 games in a row by 3 points or less. I think that wears on the veterans just as much, if not more, as the young guys. And that's why you need good veterans in that locker room, because they've been through it all. They're not just happy to be in the league. And that's why it's so important that you got the right people to get through that. And I think the young guys will follow when it's that way.
Do you feel like it was easier negotiation table this year in terms of what you're selling as opposed to last year? You didn't have a quarterback on the roster.
Yeah, definitely. It was
still getting started.
Yeah, much easier. I think guys had at least saw a little bit of how we wanted to do things last year to a degree, and it's a lot easier when you have a quarterback also. That was my number one question in free agency my first year with the Niners was, who's your quarterback going to be? And it's tough to sell something when you're not giving them an exact answer, except trust me, there'll be one. So it was a lot easier this year.
How were you able to convince Pierre and Marquise to come here last year?
Well, paying them always helps.
Yeah.
I have a good relationship with Pierre, but Pierre's also a businessman too. So we had to do right for him, and I think as long as we did, I think I had a good enough relationship with him, and he knew how we'd use him, that he wanted to be here, but we definitely had to make it right financially too. And Marquise, it was more selling him the opportunity of how we were going to use him, and that we believed that he could do some things that no one had put him in a situation to do yet. And when we talked to Marquise, it was very apparent that he believed that too. And so we had to sell him that we really were going to give him that opportunity, that he could do more, that we thought he could come out and play a starting role. And he believed us, and I think it worked out for both of us.
Do you believe in number one receiver, number two? Do you have a quote unquote number one receiver?
Not really. You go by, usually I think people go by salaries and contracts and stuff, and if you go by that, Pierre would be our number one, Marquise would be our number two, and I don't know how you would do the rest, but that doesn't matter to me. I think that's just how people talk about it. Depends what the coverages are. And Pierre started out the beginning of the year, and he led our team. He was one of our best players on offense. We really relied on him through those first, until he got hurt, which I think was the first 7 games. And then after he did get hurt, Marquise took his game to another level, and he really carried us for a while and took over the role that Pierre had established earlier in the year. So I think both of them got better in the year for us. I'm excited to have them with us next year, and hopefully some other guys can step up too.
So what's your philosophy? You've had Julio.
Yeah.
What's your philosophy on wide receivers? Do you need a Julio to win? What?
No, you definitely don't need that. If you ever have it, then keep it. It's very fun to have, and it'll help you a ton. But that's not something that you need. You need guys who can beat man-to-man coverage. You need guys who are explosive enough to scare the secondary, so it can open up your play-action game. and you need guys who can separate on third down, and that doesn't have to be a receiver. You want it to be all 5 of your eligibles. You'd like that to be 3 of your receivers, your tight end, your running back, or you can bring in a fullback. Now it's 2 of your receivers, 1 tight end. There's lots of different things you can do, but you need the threat of it all, and you want to balance it out that way. I just don't want deficiencies. I don't want holes in the offense. You'd love to have the best in the league at every position. Whenever you do have that, whatever position it is, it's worth having. It doesn't matter whether it's an O-lineman, a receiver, or quarterback. If you have one of the best, they are worth it. What you don't want to do is have a bunch of guys who are okay, who are all paid like the best. That's where you get in trouble, and that's what you got to stay away from in free agency, in my opinion. And you got to do some of that stuff to help your team out, but that's also why the draft usually is the best way to go.
So free agency, you weren't involved in any of the big name, high price wide receivers?
No, we looked into everything, but just for the situation with who we had on our team and what was available out there in free agency, what you saw happen is what we planned on happening. We didn't feel to go for anyone, and we possibly would have if some things changed, but there wasn't anyone there that before free agency started, we targeted the 2 people we went after, and those are the guys we went after. And when some contracts changed, that's why we added a few others.
You mean McKinnon?
Yeah,
Richburg.
Yeah, those are the 2 guys we had targeted, and I mean, those are the guys you go for the first day. And you look into how everything plays out, and if things happen, things can come up later, but those were the guys we targeted.
As much as Garoppolo has shown, still a young player. What are you doing with him developmentally? What's his offseason like from outside?
I mean, it isn't much right now. We're not allowed to do anything with him, but yeah, as soon as he gets in with us, we'll start him from scratch because we didn't get to do that last year. Last year, that was the hard thing, and that's why I thought it was so impressive what he did, that he just got in a situation where he couldn't have learned it all last year. It was just a crash course, and it was just enough to try to get him to Sunday. Now we can come in, we can take our time, teach him the formations from the beginning, so he actually knows where everyone is and how we move everyone around. Then start him into protections, knowing the run game, knowing the whys, why we can't run over certain things, to where we can check out of it and get to other plays. More to where he doesn't just have to memorize everything just to get to Sunday. He can actually relax, let it all soak in, and he can know it as good as the coaches, and hopefully that goes out there and doesn't make him worse. And he played pretty good last year.
How satisfying is, getting back to Matt's question about selling Marquise to what he could be, use him in a way that maybe he hadn't, and then to actually hit on that, and for that to come through, how satisfying is it as a coach to kind of see that player develop in front of your eyes?
I mean, it makes me real happy for him too. I mean, it's something. You try to do that to players all the time, and it gets easier the longer you coach because, I was a coordinator for 9 years, so I've been through a lot of different teams and different players. But it's nice when you have that experience, that when you talk to guys, you can bring up guys in the past and what you did with certain players, and whether it was on Washington or Atlanta or Cleveland or Houston, and to show how each place you need a certain type of skill set. And usually when you have that, you can sell stuff to guys because they know what you're talking about. They remember that, or they've seen it before. So that always helps. And when they do it, it helps your team a lot, because once they do it, everyone else sees that they can do it, but now they're on your team, and the value is more appreciative, and they appreciate you for it, and it's easier to keep them.
Now, Pierre hasn't had any time with Jimmy yet. Have you had any contact with him at all?
Yeah, I actually saw Pierre up at Winterfest a couple weeks ago, and Jimmy was up there too, so they spent some time together. I know the whole offense after the season went to Vegas together, and I know Pierre met him out there, so I think that they've spent some time together, they've hung out, but not with the football, so we're excited to get that going soon.
What advice would you give to a coach who's becoming a first-time head coach for the first time? What do you wish you would have known?
My advice is just be yourself. Everyone's going to give you a lot of advice and listen to people, but be yourself. You don't want to go in there and get so overwhelmed with all the stuff people are telling you that you end up forgetting who you are. There's a reason you got hired. Go with it, be yourself, and don't look back.
So last year in the draft, Joe Williams was someone you fought for. Can you talk about his progress?
Yeah, it's someone I don't know about fought for or someone that I wanted, and so but I also wanted everyone in the draft that we took. So that's what's kind of cool about our situation. There hasn't been a player here that I think that John or I haven't wanted, that we've taken, or vice versa. Like, everything has been great to where we're on the same page with everyone. When Joe came about, Joe's a very talented guy, and we want to see it more this year. I think he came in last year, fought a few injuries, but I thought he played better in the games that he did in practice, and showed his ability more in games. What I've talked about with Joe is, nothing is given here. We got a lot of good backs, and we got Breida, who had a heck of a year last year, and he was an undrafted guy. We've added another guy in McKinnon. We got guys like Mostert, who is a very good running back, who played at a very high level in special teams last year. You got to have a role in this team, and Joe has the ability to do that, and I hope that he does. But he's going to have some competition this year to do it.
What does he have to do?
He's got to beat guys out, and in order to beat guys out, you got to be better than them. And you got to be better than them at running the ball, better than them at protecting it. And if you're not, you got to be better than them at special teams. So you end up keeping 3, sometimes 4 running backs, and it's going to be fun competition to watch this year.
What did you fell in love with him with the film that you watched.
Yeah.
What was it about what you saw from him on film that made you say, this fits our system?
That when he had a lane, he had the ability to score, and he had the ability to make the one guy left miss. There's different types of skill sets that guys have, and there isn't one specific kind that we're looking for. But what is nice that Joe has is when you do block it right and there's a lane, he's got the burst, the 40 time, the 10 time just coming out of his start, the leg strength to run through arm tackles that he can hit it and be gone. That was very similar to how Tevin Coleman was for us in Atlanta. Totally different than how Devontae is. So there's lots of different ways that guys can play. Joe has that skill set and that burst to where you can see why he was 7 yards per carry in college. You can see why he had some games where he had over 200 yards rushing and a number of plus 50-yard runs. He has that ability. You can see it in preseason when we had a lane, and even though it didn't look like there was much, he got 7 yards where another guy's only getting 5, just by how hard he can hit it when he does hit it. So he has that ability to do it. It's about getting him to do it every time, and we'll see what it ends up being. How he's an overall runner, what his yards per carry is, what he does down and down out, how he is when the ball's not in his hands, how he blocks, how he plays on special teams. But he does have the ability to do some things as a running back.
Has he proven his commitment to you? Because I know that was kind of a question coming out of college.
We'll see this year. Joe was a good guy for us last year. I have no problem with the person. He did everything we asked. I expect him to turn up his urgency level this year. I've talked to him about that. He says he has, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
So he'll be reporting knowing exactly where he stands.
Yeah, I think everybody does.
Yeah.
Especially if they come and ask me, I'll tell them. So it's, I think he knows where he stands, and I think most guys on our team stand like that too. You got to play good to make our team, and hopefully it's a lot harder to make our team this year than it was last year. And I hope our third year, it's a lot harder to make our team than our second year.
What have you seen from Kendrick Bourne?
What's that?
What have you seen from Kendrick Bourne?
He took a huge step last year. I don't know if he was totally ready at the beginning. I know he wasn't totally ready at the beginning of the year. But he was a guy who we thought had too much talent to put on practice squad. We were scared we would lose him. We knew some teams might take him off, so we kept him on our roster. And once we had some injuries, he got out there a little more than he should have early. And he was a guy who I talk about where I think he was a little overwhelmed at first, but he kept battling through it. Even when we would ride him, he didn't like go into a shell. He kept working. Him and our receiver coach Michael Fleur put a lot of time together and learning the stuff. We had to move him around a bunch, and he played in an offense coming out of college that they didn't challenge him nearly the same way that we did, and it took him time to learn it. Especially he didn't come till training camp. He missed all of OTAs, so he was really, because of the school rule, he was like Solomon. So he was really behind the 8 ball. Not to mention he was an undrafted guy, but we kept going with him. And when Pierre got hurt, he was listed as he was our next guy up, and that was a little too much pressure to put on him. that's why we brought in Lewis Murphy at the time, just a veteran who had played before, and that's why we ended up starting Lou, who really, I think, helped him out, just kind of taking some of that pressure off of him. But he ended up playing a lot, even though he didn't start. He played like starter reps, and he got better as the year went, and the way he finished the year, he was playing at a high level to where I really hope he takes that into this year, because he can help us if he does.
He actually credits you for lighting a fire under him after week 1.
Yeah.
When he missed the meeting or something.
Yeah.
And he said that his mental approach wasn't right. So when you're talking about it, he wasn't ready yet. Do you think that some of his just discipline and approach to the game?
Yeah, I think guys know what they know, and he came from a small school, and I think he was an undrafted guy who missed all of OTAs, and I think he knows he has the ability to play in the league, but I also think he was just happy to be in the league. And I know that the conversation you're talking about, and he missed a couple, he was late to a couple things, and I wrote him pretty hard because I didn't think he was quite ready to make an NFL roster at the beginning, but he was too talented for us to lose, and we did believe in him. But he needed to grow up a little bit, which we all do, and it was really cool how we responded, because sometimes guys will take that personally, and sometimes guys will realize that you're just trying to help them, and they'll learn from it, and I think he did, and it was a credit to him, and I was really, really happy to see knowing where he was at the beginning of the year and where he ended. He should have been very proud of his first year, and he better not be relaxing right now, just sitting back enjoying that, though. He's got to come and prove himself again this year.
Swinging over from the Detroit table, Matt Patricia's talking about how much information comes at you these first few months, and how strange this experience is. I'm just curious what it's like the second time through, if it gets easier.
You get a lot more used to it. It's just to go from a coordinator where there's just some position coaches who are in your office a lot, to now it's all the coaches, the whole building, to things you didn't even know about before. When you're a coordinator, you kind of live in your hole, and you just watch film and no one bugs you, and that's what you get used to. And I bet, when you're a head coach, those first couple months, I'm coming in every morning, and I don't care what happens, I'm turning on the film and I'm watching film today, and it's just weeks go by and it's 4 o'clock and you're like, I haven't turned on my film yet, and it's because people keep coming in here, and it overwhelms you at first, just because we're all pretty regimented, and you have certain things you do at certain times a year, and you got to adjust that a little bit, but you get used to it and you find your time to watch the film, but it's definitely takes a few months.
Do you change? Are you any adjustments that you make year 2 as far as your hands-on approach to the offense, more delegation?
I think I delegated a lot last year, and I'm also very hands-on too. So I don't see ever changing. Last year where I had to change was just kind of the order I did things. It took me a few weeks, but earlier in the year, I was trying to do the same thing on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays that I had always done, and I did, but it was a lot harder. And I started to realize, all right, I got to do some other things with defense, special teams, personnel, media, other things on Monday and Tuesday where I got to accept that I won't be quite as on it on Wednesday and Thursday as I was as a coordinator. But then I had to get more on it on Friday and Saturday to call a game, to get ready for it, where the game plan's in, but as a coordinator, you're almost ready on Wednesday, just because that's all you've done on Monday and Tuesday, and now that's all you're doing to the offense. And I do that. I let other guys in the building do that, and I try to get there by Friday or Saturday, because you got to be ready to call it.
Was there ever a point last season? Did you call every play last season? There was never a point where you went somewhere else and told someone else to take over?
No, but the guys are always talking. We talk in our headsets, guys. We always are talking about the coverage, down and distance. You get in a rhythm as a play caller, but you also listen to people a ton. Not much during series. Usually during series, I'm talking to the quarterback. You got a lot of thoughts going in your head with down and distance, time, how to say the play, things like that, to where you don't want a lot of ideas, or you're going to get overwhelmed a little bit and you're going to bite someone's head off. So it's quiet at that time. But after the series ends, you're all looking at pictures, you're all suggesting things, and you get them from all our coaches, and you take them to the next series.
The headset turns off in 15 seconds.
Yep.
So with Jimmy, did you talk to him? Did you use all of that time?
Yes.
Did you say the play call and also kind of explain it to him?
Yeah, sometimes if you can. If you can get to the line of scrimmage quick enough, And you can talk to him, especially the situation Jimmy was in last year, where he needed as much as you could because of his lack of time in our offense. Yes, we did that a lot with Jimmy, but done with all quarterbacks.
Do you have time to, like, if he's at the line of scrimmage, can you say, this defense, hey, they're in this, look at where that safety, look at this, you can do that?
Yeah, we've been doing it for a long time. So
really?
Yeah, that's why we go no huddle sometimes. So you can get up to the line of scrimmage and you can see stuff and you can talk to them until 15 seconds. So we've been doing that for a number of years.
So, like, if you snap the ball at 20, you can still talk to him during a play?
No. Once the ball snaps, it's
okay.
off. Yeah, and that would probably scare the heck out of him.
Yeah. Did you see the stories that came out about Sean making checks for Jared Goff at the line? And when you see that and it's become this big thing, are you like, is that an uncommon thing? Or are you looking at that like it's not that rare or out of the norm?
Yeah, to me it's been going on since I've been around, so it's not rare.
Hey Coach, all around the table there's been talk about run-pass options of various types. Do you feel that you have to sort of be, if you will, me too, and install that larger repertoire? Because Carter just said he did have 3 plays in his system. He was going to expand that dramatically. So here's your thoughts about it.
I mean that's been a huge part of what we've done for this is my 10th year calling plays, and it's run pass options, and I feel like that's all we've done for the last 10 years. So it's I think that's a huge part of a lot of people's offenses.
I think to be more pointed, the type of run pass option that includes basically focusing on holding the linebacker on the backside. Back.
Yep.
And I say that because, for example, at Cal, when Sonny Dykes ran it, they had a really extreme version of it that 2 people talk about adopting here. So that's why I was thinking about the more dangerous type of run pass option that might get somebody killed when I look at it from that perspective.
To me, I don't think there are that many dangerous run pass options because it happens so quick and it's an option. So when there's a hole in the defense, you see it pre-snap, and it's a very catch and throw. If the hole's not there, you hand it off. So it's not as much of a risk as people, I would say, think. Now, if you get greedy as a quarterback and you're trying to throw it there and the hole's not there, now no one's blocking for you. So you got to make smart decisions, and that's why you don't, if they do miss one of them, you don't want to get on them too bad because it's better to be safe than sorry. So you got to be smart with it, but I think it's a huge part of the league. It always has been, but anytime someone, whatever you major in, and if you go through the playoffs and have success, the stuff we did at Atlanta, when you go to the Super Bowl, you see it all the next year, and I do the same thing. When I watch teams have a lot of success, I'm going to study the playoffs hard, the Super Bowl hard, and you're going to see a lot of those things in everyone's offense and get a lot of attention.
As a young head coach, I know you had decision making in terms of play calling, and you've been a coordinator and called plays in the NFL. What went into your decision on that, and why do you think so many coaches are comfortable staying with calling plays in addition to all that requires being a head coach?
I think some people, it depends why you got the job and what you're good at and what you can bring to an organization the most. Sure. If there's someone on the staff who can do that role for you and do it the same or better, then you can help the rest of the organization out in a lot more other ways. If you're the best guy for that and that's what you got hired for, then that's what you should do. So it all depends on your situation, what the other guys on your staff are, how you are as a coach. Sometimes that's not always guys' strength either, and they can help the team in other ways. So I feel like that's one of my strengths, and I feel like that's something I should do for our organization.
Having done it now, are there things you'll tweak to your work week? Are there adjustments you'll make to make that balance easier?
Yeah, I did that throughout the whole year. Halfway through the year, I was doing things a lot different than the beginning of the year. You're doing the same work. It's just you got to change your regimen up a little bit. Stuff I used to do as a coordinator, sometimes I'd be done on Monday and Tuesday, and as a head coach, sometimes I just don't get to it until Friday or Saturday. But when kickoff starts at Sunday, it's all the same. Sure.
John seemed to be 100% in on Sherman when you brought him in. He said you kind of needed to figure some things out with him. What was it you needed to be convinced about?
I think I'm like that with everything. I just think anything that happens, I'm not going to just get real excited about and celebrate right away. I always ask my wife how I buy houses. I'm going to look at everything, and I'm going to look at, not negatively, but I'm going to I'm going to look at, all right, what could go wrong, what are the bad things, or what are the good things, and once I can cross all those off, then I get really excited. And it's just a process I kind of go through with everything, and that's how it was with Sherm also. When he came available, I was extremely excited, but I'd never met the guy before, and I think when you make commitments to people, you better know the type of person you're making a commitment to, and that's why it was very important for me to meet him and go to dinner. And you can't always get a lot from someone at dinner. Sometimes people are on it, but him, I felt good with. He was very real. I think everyone sees he's not hiding much back, so it was pretty easy to get to know him in a 3-4 hour dinner, and I was very happy with the person I got to know.
Did he bring up Ruben in the dinner as potentially being kind of a mentor-like figure?
Yeah, I don't know if he did specifically. We talked about a lot of our guys, and you can tell that's something that's important to him with whoever. And I know he's excited about Ruben because he knows how good of a player he is. I know he's excited to help our secondary out. You bring in lots of veterans who say that type of stuff, but you can tell Sherm really means it, and I think he'll be real good for our team. And he's the type of guy that you want to be that way too. Not all veterans can teach it the exact right way, but I think Sherm's he's a talented guy. He's a student of the game, and the reason he's been so successful is because to me, his talent with what's upstairs. And anybody who has that type of knowledge is willing to share it, especially when you're playing in a very similar scheme. That experience, I think, will help a lot of our guys.
Along those lines, you said in Indy you were in the defensive room a lot this year. Do you feel that you've developed your knowledge of defenses, and do you think that has helped your offensive play calling?
That's been important to me my whole life. So it's I've always tried to do more defense and offense. It's something that I remember when I got into coaching. That's something my dad always told me, that don't worry about offense, learn defense, and offense just happens. You don't ever stop learning defense, and that's how I've kind of been my philosophy in everything. When I was at Tampa Bay, the time I spent with their defensive staff to me was crucial to how I put together an offense, and I paid attention to that my whole time. And in Atlanta, paying attention to their defense, that's why I wanted Robert Saleh, so he could have a similar defense.
Why was it important for you guys to extend Marquise before free agency?
One, we were real happy with how Keith played last year, and I was kind of happy just watching him grow as a person throughout the year. I think he went through a lot of ups and downs, had a lot of things happen to him last year, some tragic things, but I think he grew as a man. Just watching the way he handled himself at the end of the year compared to the beginning, the way he practiced, and to watch a person really turn into a pro as the year goes, and to watch his play on the field match that, it was really fun to watch, and he's the type of guy that we want around here. Good?
Yeah. I just finished reading Steve Young's autobiography, and he glowed about the years with your dad in the book.
Yeah, they had fun together. Yeah. My dad loved Steve.
I guess he was thinking about going to Denver, but at the end of his career, but he retired.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
That would have helped.
When were you? What year were you born?
I was born in '79.
'79. Okay, so yeah, you're probably 15.
I skimmed it.
Is it similar to your philosophy?
Yeah,
Which one is
there's
that?
lots of real similar things. I got all his tapes and stuff, which I watched for. I did a lot of it last year.
In-house.
Yeah,
the tapes
in-house tape.